Welcome to this explainer. Let's jump right in, because today we're unpacking a massive, highly anticipated update to India's good manufacturing practices, legally known as Schedule M. Now, if you follow global health at all, you already know India is essentially the pharmacy of the world. I mean, they supply around 20% of the entire globe's generic drugs. But making sure that billions of pills, vaccines, and specialized treatments are manufactured safely, well, that requires a rock-solid legal framework. Recently, the government rolled out what is basically a version 2.0 update to its pharmaceutical operating system. So, we're going to dig into the official notifications, compare the original drafts to the final enforced rules, and see exactly how this completely transforms drug safety all the way from the factory floor right to your medicine cabinet.
Here's a quick look at our roadmap for today. We'll track the journey from the initial draft to the final law, explore the broader manufacturing scope, introduce the new quality risk management concepts, look at specific drug upgrades, and wrap up with the future of pharma quality.
All right, Section 1. From draft to final law. Let's look at the timeline and see exactly how this massive regulatory patch was rolled out in the real world.
Look at this 5-year journey. It's pretty wild. Back in October 2018, the government published the beta draft. Now, the initial plan, as written back then, was to give existing manufacturers a nice buffer until October 2020 to comply with all these new standards. But, as we all know, global events totally shifted timelines around that year. Fast forward to December 28, 2023, and boom, the final notification was officially published. And here's the real kicker. Unlike the draft that offered that long grace period, the final rules stated they would come into force immediately. The waiting period was officially over.
Now, if you want to see the core difference between the old way and the new way, just look at the literal name change here. They didn't just tweak a few sentences. They completely replaced the old Schedule M. The original title was just Good Manufacturing Practices. Pretty simple, right? But the new, finalized title is Good Manufacturing Practices and Requirements of Premises, Plant, and Equipment for Pharmaceutical Products. Adding premises, plant, and equipment to the actual title is a huge deal. It signals a massive expansion. We're moving from just dictating how a drug is made to strictly governing the entire physical environment and the exact hardware used to make it.
Moving right along to Section 2, a broader manufacturing scope. This is where we start talking about holistic systems that govern a drug's entire life cycle.
Enter the PQS, or Pharmaceutical Quality System. The revised Schedule M mandates that every manufacturer has to establish this comprehensive system. The PQS is this new, overarching framework ensuring that a product never places a patient at risk because of inadequate safety, quality, or efficacy. And here's a massive culture shift within the rules. Hitting this standard is now explicitly the ultimate responsibility of senior management. It's no longer something that can just push off onto the quality control lab. The PQS makes sure quality is baked into every single stage of a drug's life, from the very first technology transfer all the way to the product's eventual discontinuation.
So what does this actually look like day to day? Well, a major, tangible part of the PQS is the mandatory product quality review. Manufacturers can't just ship products out the door and forget about them anymore. They're legally required to systematically trace the supply chain of their starting materials, review their in-process controls, and, this is absolutely crucial, they have to meticulously review all failed batches, any deviations, and perfectly document their corrective actions. It's essentially a closed-loop system of continuous improvement.
Which leads us perfectly into Section 3, Introducing Quality Risk Management. Because the real goal here is proactively preventing those failures before they even happen.
Think of it like this. If the PQS is the overarching operating system, Quality Risk Management, or QRM, is the proactive security patch. The official text defines it as a systematic process for assessing and controlling risks based on solid scientific knowledge. It all links right back to protecting the patient. Essentially, it's about finding the manufacturing risk before it ever finds you.
And this is exactly how QRM plays out on the factory floor. It translates into a really robust, mandatory self-inspection program. Management has to appoint a dedicated team of experts to conduct self-inspections at least once a year. They're basically hunting down shortcomings, digging deep to find the root causes of any deviations, and then they have to implement and monitor corrective actions. You find the vulnerability in your raw materials or equipment, and you fix it before a contaminated batch ever leaves the building.
All right, Section 4, Upgrades for Specific Drugs. Because making a generic vitamin tablet is obviously a whole different ballgame than making a sterile, injectable vaccine, right?
The 2023 revision goes way beyond broad-stroke rules. It actually introduced incredibly stringent, dedicated sections for over a dozen specialized drug categories. We're talking highly detailed legal requirements specifically for sterile products, biologicals like vaccines, radiopharmaceuticals, and even complex plant-based phytopharmaceuticals. There are even strict rules for handling hazardous substances to protect both the workers and the environment. This segmented approach guarantees that the unique risks of cross-contamination for these highly sensitive products are heavily regulated.
For example, let's zoom in on active pharmaceutical ingredients, or APIs. The new rules demand intense, strict controls here. They literally require a formal change control system. That means if a manufacturer wants to make even a microscopic tweak to a processing step or their equipment or even the computer software running the machines, it has to be drafted, reviewed, approved, and rigorously scientifically justified. It leaves absolutely zero room for anyone making ad hoc changes on the factory floor.
Finally, let's jump to Section 5, the future of pharma quality. With all these dense, technical requirements in mind, let's step back and look at the big picture.
If we compare the old way of thinking to the new mandates, it's clear this is a total industry paradigm shift. We are moving from reactive end product testing straight into proactive lifecycle assurance. In the past, manufacturers might have been tempted to just test a few samples at the very end of a batch, crossing their fingers and waiting to catch an error right before shipping. But the new paradigm, it absolutely demands that errors are prevented at the source. Quality has to be designed into the facility, the equipment, and the daily processes from day one.
This quote, pulled directly from the main principles of the newly substituted Schedule M, really captures the philosophical shift perfectly. It openly acknowledges that, hey, pharmaceutical manufacturing is inherently risky. Materials degrade, equipment fails, human errors happen. The real goal of the law isn't just to punish people after a failure occurs, but to systematically manage and minimize those risks every single day, to make absolutely sure the medicines we take are safe and effective.
So, as we wrap up this explainer, here's a final thought to leave you with. With these strict, proactive tools now legally mandated across such a massive chunk of the global supply chain, how quickly are we going to see a tangible drop in product recalls and contamination events? Version 2.0 is officially online. Now we wait and see how the industry adapts to the upgrade. Thanks so much for watching and keep asking questions.